Here we are today looking at a GY6 carburettor off a 50cc scooter, and basically I stopped off at a garage and bought some very cheap tools. As you can see here, here's a very useful screwdriver set, only very cheap but extremely useful because of the various sizes. Over here we have some other very useful tools, and the whole lot didn't cost more than about £6. You can get them anywhere basically. Now I'm going to try and show you how to strip the carburettor. Which hopefully will go well. Basically we choose a screwdriver. This one's already got the bit in it. First of all, I'm going to take off the automatic choke, which is basically 2 screws. Pull that off, put that to one side. Underneath you have 4 float bowl screws, which are here. Very tight actually, they should be. So now taking the float bowl off, which takes a bit of time. Okay, this screws are holding on to the very final minute. Basically I've got these tools to show it's with any young guy's capability, or young woman, or whoever, young people who've got a scooter, got problems, to do some of the things themselves and eliminate them at least. Right, there's the float bowl, okay, and you can see the gasket's ripped there for a start, and there's corrosion in the float bowl. You can just about blow through the overflow, that's in case the carburettor floods. And there's the drain screw and little jets. So basically I'll just point out using this screwdriver. Here's your main jet, and underneath it there's a tube with several holes in. Here's another jet which has holes in. Here's the float, okay, which is held on by this little pin here. As you can see, as the gasket's broken, you can't actually see the other side of it, but you can now. So what we have to do is remove the rest of this gasket, which is proving more difficult than normal. And of course, because the gasket's broken, that will be a contributing factor to why the carburettor wasn't working properly. Right, made a right pig's ear of that. Under normal circumstances, if you're very lucky, the gaskets don't break. Right, now here they put in a simple little screw to stop the float coming out, just to pinch against that little wire, which is quite a good idea in a way. And get this undone. Now basically on this float, when we get it off, you'll see, that's a very good start, you will see that there's a little needle that should come up now, but for some reason isn't. Let's get our, there it is. Right, we've just removed that. and you can see underneath here there's a needle just held in a little plastic clip. This moves from side to side. It's important just to clean around that edge, okay? Make sure there's no fuel in the float, meaning it's been compromised. Okay, so we can put that down there and we know that needs cleaning. Now you can see where the needle goes in here, that's your main fuel supply. So you'd get an air line and blow it out. That's perfectly clear. Okay, we've got debris from the gaskets here. So now what we're going to do is select, this is very important, try and select something which is perfect, because these are only little brass jets and they break very easily. Not break, but deform is the correct term. So I've found one for the main jet, and hopefully if it's not too tight I'll be able to get it out. So here again we can see it's got to fit in perfectly, and yes, we've been lucky, that main jet has come out. All fingers and thumbs at the moment. In this particular instance there's a tube in there called the emulsion tube, but it doesn't come out, it's pressed into the carburetor body and you can see it from there. This is when you put your slide and needle back in, the needle goes in there, and when you operate the throttle it moves up and down to allow fuel in or out. Now you look at this jet, it's got a very tiny hole, but I don't know if you can see on the camera, but it's clean. Okay, but normally you just blow through it or get an air line and blow it out. Now here you might be lucky and be able to turn it half a turn just to loosen it, which you can because of the jet body. And then if you're fortunate enough to have gone to the garage, now it's loose, get one of these tiny little tools here, just undo it like that. Right. Seems it's a day of fingers and thumbs here, but we'll get there in the end. Right, now here you should be able to see they're tiny holes, 1, 2 up that side, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now they correspond with each other, which means you can get a staple which is ideal for cleaning carbs, but you mustn't break it off and you push it through from side to side. I'll just get one and I'll show you how to do it. Right, basically here's the jet. So first of all you put your finger over all the holes and blow through from the bottom, and you can hear it's clear. If not, you would clean it and blow it out with an air line. But luckily you can see here from this picture the end of the staple has gone right through the pair and clean them. So you work your way up, first of all this side, bit tricky, that's one. Got to be careful, that's 2, 3, 4. Now you see all 4 of those holes are clear. Now you can then wash that in some carb cleaner and blow it out once again with the air line. Okay, just out of interest, here's the tube where the automatic choke works. There's a needle and a plunger, and with heat that varies, lifts up and down. That's why when your scooter starts, it starts off very, very quickly, and once it heats up, the correct flow rate is given, and then you don't have any problem. I'll just do this very, very gently with this one. Ideally a better screwdriver, only that thickness, because you'll see when I go to tighten this up, like this. It's new to me. It's tightening. Okay, so we're good. When I go to tighten this up, I could only do it half a turn, but that's where it was to there, and just make sure it's tight. Now this is clean, so we're going to put the main jet back in. Right, okay, so we know those two are clean. We know that where the needle goes into the carb from above on the slide is clean because it's a nice clean passage. Here's another thing of interest. This is the mixture screw. Now you can see it's at 12 o'clock if you like. So what you do, you turn it in half. Got a screw dials coming out there. 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. That's just over 2.5. It's important to remember that. So now you can undo it. It's nulled so that you can actually adjust it. And there's a little spring in here as well. So you can see the little spring. Okay. And it goes in there like that. This is a very basic mixture jet, which you would clean. You clean that with carb cleaner and then reassemble. Now we know, because we counted, that we can undo that. So do it right up. As you can see, we're doing it right up. And we know from 12 o'clock it was 2.5. Half, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. So that's where the jet was set. Having said that, once that's back on the bike and you've got the bike running, once the automatic choke is cut out so it's revving properly, you then use this and the throttle setting screw to set tick over. And the idea is you set your tick over, then you turn this screw in gently, 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 and you hear the revs build up till it reaches maximum revs from that setting. Then you just back it off a very tiny bit, a couple of degrees, and then you can mess about setting your actual tick over with the tick over screw on the carburetor where the fuel where the cable goes in for adjustment. Here you can see there's a rubber O-ring which just, when you push a slide in, it just seals it. That's where the automatic choke goes back in. So now basically this is ready for total cleaning and reassembly, and then that should be fine. We've got the float here, which I'll just show you how it goes back, because this is extremely easy on this one, and straight away we drop the needle, both needles. So it's a good example. The needle, as you can see, just fits in here on a little slide like that. Okay, and this just pushes back through like that. I'll put that through first as it's falling on the floor. Okay, and once again we can see the needle just goes through here in that little gap like that. And you've got to be careful to get them all right. Try and get that sort of centralised for the moment. Now, we let the needle go into the carb like that. Let that down like that. The needle's actually in the carb. Now it's fallen out. Oh dear. Right, so once again we've got to take the needle out. As you can see, it's fallen out through not putting it in carefully. It's a bit tricky, but it's worth doing. One thing to remember in all this, cleanliness is absolutely paramount. Right, so we've got our needle again. And we've got to be careful when we put it back in. It's going in. And this time we've been more successful. It's actually back in, as you can see. The needle's still in the clip. This pin's regulated on there, so there's no adjustment. And this tiny screw goes back in. Here. I expect I'll drop that in a minute because it seems one of those days. True to form. You can actually, to make things more simple, magnetise a screwdriver so you don't have the problems. You can see the screws going in now. I'm just using this small screwdriver. It's not the correct one, of course, as I never would, but we will use the correct one to tighten it up. Now you can see it just holds, that screw just holds on that pin very crudely to stop it moving or falling out. So we're now back to our Phillips adaptation. Just tighten that up. Now fundamentally, when we put a new gasket on here, clean out all the corrosion here caused by water and fuel. This jet is absolutely free. There's the drain plug, which we'll take out just to show you. It says if it'll come out. Yes, it has. As you can see, that one's quite corroded. So that's come out. You can see there's corrosion on the bottom of the needle as well, which is another reason, and there's also a little mark there, which is only a mark. It almost looked like another hole, so that needs thoroughly cleaning. Okay, and then you put it back together. Okay, so I'll just do that back up for now. Now I'll just put this back on to show you, although I'm not finished with it for the day because I've got to order a new gasket obviously, and when the gasket comes I'll clean it. Now you've got to be very careful lining it all up, especially with a gasket like that. But in actual fact the gaskets help because where you could see the hole. I'm just going to put 2 screws back in this to show you something which is very important. Just put them in diagonally. The whole thing's got to be taken apart and cleaned when the new gasket comes. Right, now if you've done that properly and you go like this, you can hear the float shake, okay? So that means you can blow through. When it's upside down and the floats are closed, it's impossible to blow through because that's cutting off the fuel supply. So basically that's it, and that's just one of many. Fortunately this one just came off the bike with a couple of Jubilee clips and was one of the most simple. What I will do in later videos is show you more complex and use more professional tools and clean, reassemble and then demonstrate on the bike for you so that you know exactly what you're getting. I hope you've enjoyed my first attempt at a video, and I'm going to play it back and see how it looks. Thanks for your time. I haven't put the automatic choke back on because the plunger and spring aren't there at this present time either, but thank you for your time.